Good evening, everybody. I thought Father's Day would be a great kickoff for the topic of forgiveness, and um, gonna go from there. Stumbling and fumbling over the words here, but yeah, the what has come to mind recently about forgiveness is years ago I came across A Course in Miracles, and in one of the lessons, which, if you're not familiar with Course in Miracles, there's a lesson for each day of the year. And the object of the lessons is to remove any blocks that a participant has between themselves and their creator, and themselves and their surroundings, basically, and to remove fear and shift to love. And I mean, it's so much more than that for me, but one of the lessons is forgiveness offers everything I want. And there's been a lot of experiences around that. And in recent months, I have looked at, do I even believe what I talk about, what I preach about, what I won't shut up about at times to others? Do I even believe that forgiveness offers anything, less everything I want? And so these past couple of weeks, when there would be a time where there was hardness in my heart, or where I could notice the fear within my body, or there was confusion in a day, anything that wasn't of God, and that I was out of sorts, and would take an opportunity to pause and ask for help with that. But every single instance that occurred, um, there was unforgiveness somewhere. It was either something that an event or a circumstance that I hadn't forgiven myself for, or a hardness in my heart towards another person for something that I perceived that they had done or hadn't done, or a time that they didn't show up when I thought they ought to have shown up, things like that. And so, me myself, my experience with forgiveness is I can't do that. Meaning, if I really want to forgive somebody and I'm just trying my hardest to do it, um, I still, anything pops up that's like the event, or creeps back in, I still feel that hardness. So that saying, I forgive, but I don't forget, is not true forgiveness for me. Forgiveness occurs with help from my creator, and then I don't even know what it is that another person or I myself, what terrible offense or has been committed. And I have that holy instance, which they talk about in A Course in Miracles and other spiritual paths, but that moment in time that I'm truly present, I'm not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, and I will perceive and feel that I am wholly loving and wholly loved, and that you are wholly loving and wholly loved, and that nothing has occurred. So all offenses, all resentments, everything are connected to the body. And so if there's an offense, and in this world there's a lot of horrific offenses going on to bodies, that are causing, uh, bodily harm, death, emotional instability, all of that. So all of these things that are occurring in the mortal world, seem and appear to be real enough, and pretty darn scary. And can make just, all of us angry, feel separated from one another, feel separated from our creator, feel overwhelmed, all of these things. And so, forgiveness, when I ask for that help, it truly does offer everything that I want. And so let's say there's unforgiveness concerning finances, either on the person, say, that I lent money out from, or a good that I purchased that didn't turn out so well, or that mad at myself because I am not making the amount of money I'd like to make, living in the home or having the car or whatever it is I perceive that I should be in life, or my work having value, or going to make a difference in this world, those kind of things. So there's so much unforgiveness that can lie in all of that, and I'll never measure up. And I'm going to come across these unforgiveness pockets and these judgment pockets on my part all throughout my day. And all my judgment comes from what I perceive. So whatever I see, whatever I hear, whatever I'm sensing around me, it seems like evidence of what's going on, and I have a judgment about all of it. So it's not been my experience that that can stop. If I look at a curtain, I'm going to judge whether I like the color, the texture, the length of it, how much sunlight it lets in, and so all of my judgments are acknowledging the body, the surroundings as being solid and real, and that there are differences. There is a separation. That separation has occurred. So the beauty of forgiveness, and it offering everything truly that I want, is that when I perceive myself as connected to all things, as not being alone, as none of my actions that I have or inactions that I've done up to this point, no matter how far I run, hide, duck from my wrongs that I perceive that I've done, that love, that connecting love, that eternal connection with my Creator cannot be severed. The bodies, temporary and all of that, of course. But as far as the love, never. And so, do I really believe that? And yes, I do. And do I believe that forgiveness offers everything I want? It has been my experience that when forgiveness occurs, like concerning finances, for example, that all things are well, fall into place, there is no worries, and I am sustained, I am full, I'm overflowing. So, it being Father's Day, I thought for this first shout out, or first presentation, if you will, of my experiences with forgiveness. All of us, whether we had a physical father and mother, whether we had physical parents, whether they were both by blood or one by blood, whether we were adopted, whether we were not adopted. We have these key figures in our early years that help us to navigate life and decide what works and what doesn't. And then, of course, with the father, or my father, anyways, my definition, or the thing I'm comfortable with concerning my Creator, being a father, mother, all inclusive, non religious presence in my life. But very much Christianity is a good baseline for me. It just has worked, whether it was traditional Christianity or A Course in Miracles. Christians would not follow A Course in Miracles because they would not know whether, or subscribe to whether, anything that Jesus has spoken or scribed to anybody after the New Testament. But for me, it's also Christian based. Jesus to me is my brother and my helper and my example, of one of many examples. I have a lot of examples in other cultures and other religions that are not Christianity, and again, I see it all as extending love, teaching love. I'll just use the word love. I feel that it's more universal and applies to everybody, that we can teach love or fear. We can receive love or fear. We can perceive ourselves as being, loving or fearful. Attitudinal healing is also a good fit for me. A lot of you have heard me talk about that, and that's a whole other topic, really. But it talks a lot about forgiveness as well. So I'll just use the example of my own father. Growing up, in short, I was pretty much at war with my father, but yet I wanted to meet all his expectations, exceed all his expectations, looked up to him, wanted to make him proud, those kind of things. And but there was also a whole slew of incidents where unforgiveness was the case, either things that I had ducked and hided, and where I knew it would let my dad down, hadn't forgiven myself for, or things that I perceived he had done or hadn't done, or said or hadn't said to myself and my mother, that were unforgivable, and so there was a series of events, and one of those events was I realized that I struggled with alcohol, and that's when I started my journey in recovery from alcohol. But my father also had that struggle, and when I realized that the nature of that struggle, and that the common bond I had with my father that I didn't realize was a common bond, that's where the forgiveness began, because everything horrific thing I thought he had done or didn't do, I could understand in the ideas of the illness, or the nature of the illness of any addiction, and so I felt finally understood, what a lot of his actions and so forth. Um, excuse me, the night that he passed, he had stopped breathing, or he said he was having a hard time catching his breath. I was in a different room with my daughter. My mom had said that he said, I can't breathe. And she said, well, honey, maybe we just need to turn the air off, or I think the hot air was on. And so by the time the ambulance had arrived, he had already stopped breathing, and the entire journey and into the hospital. And my mom went, and I asked a friend to watch my daughter so that I could join my mother at the hospital. And so in that moment, I knew that a lot of forgiveness had occurred, because I was like, Daddy, Daddy, not now. Just like a little child. I love you. I'm just now getting to know you. Why now? As a younger person, I think there was part of me that wish he would leave, wish he would, stop making people miserable, is how I perceived him. But at the hour of his death, and long before that occurred, there was love in my heart. He also was, if anybody is familiar with Archie Bunker, an old show, equally prejudiced towards everybody. And every prejudiced bone went out his toes when he first met my daughter, and he recognized and let go a lot of his ideas about prejudices. And then it was funny because he had friends from it would be like the United Nation of friends the last year of his life, like he had been missing out on a whole bunch of people that he wouldn't have even considered fellowshipping with before. And so and then his the way that he was with my daughter, so gentle, and he'd push her in the stroller, and point out to her, okay, now what's that, and then she had him wrapped around her little pinky, because when she would answer it correctly, like, a bush, a dog, a park, or a seesaw or something, then she'd put her hand back. Oh, there's my closet open, somewhat organized, but she put her hand back, and he'd give her a piece of candy. Then he had scolded my mother and I for, he said that she must have a set bedtime. That's it. And you two need to get it together and make sure she has a set bedtime. So my mother and I went to a Vegas show, and of course, any Vegas shows usually start late and let out early morning hours or whatever. So we come home and he's got the snacks for that age group and playing puppets and has some kind of cartoon on. And I said, "Hey, Dad, what happened to the set bedtime hour?" So, anyways, I cherished those last couple years of my dad's life and of recognizing my own struggle with alcoholism, dropping the rock about a lot of my differences, feeling loved and more loving towards him, having more tenderness in my heart, seeing him and how he was with my daughter, and recognizing that all of his actions, no matter how perceived, were rooted in love. And then with the background and tools he had and the horrific things he went through as a child, especially with a stepfather that he had that would be things that nightmares are made of, and the tools that he had. Plus, he was a World War II vet, and he thought myself and other vets before me, were weak and such because he went through a lot more than a lot of us vets did. But he had those, PTSD and those memories that are hard to shake that can occur when you're in that type of service. And but anyways, it was just a delight to have a relationship with him, to have so many blocks removed. I also was an early student of A Course in Miracles at the time, and so that was truly helpful. I was in recovery, so I removed alcohol, which was my greatest medicine at the time, but also a way to avoid God and avoid life. And so that had been removed. And so, it was just a real healing time, quite a bit bumpy, a lot of insecurities at that time. But it was just this forgiveness in action as a direct result of being willing, in some 12-step programs and other circles, willing to be willing. I don't know how to forgive this situation, but I'm willing to be willing to give it a start. And so if you're interested in taking the forgiveness journey with me, because, I think it's a journey, not a destination, that every time I think that I have forgiven, or then misery sinks in, or I feel, I call it my lips on the floor and I can't get it off, I'll have a sadness about me, or some difficulty that I'm struggling with that can't seem to get out from under. And like I said, in practicing these last couple of weeks, and with forgiveness, there's been some new freedom, new happiness, pockets, and then a better understanding that when let's say when I experience forgiveness with finances, then all of a sudden the worries, the concerns, the levels of difficulty that it seems that the world's finances, the rich versus the poor, the working then the non-working, and the prices going up, and we all know the stresses that a piece of paper can cause. I don't know why, but it does. And or you come across a larger sum of money, and if you're like me, I want more of that, or it's not enough. Or you're wanting to be, help somebody in your neighborhood, but you also want to help the rest of the block. Whatever it is, money seems to be the source of a lot of lessons, especially ones of unforgiveness. And if you owe a bunch of people money, and they seem like they are not forgiving of that, that they will surely track you down and add interest. But anyways, so if you'd like to, I'll just be doing these short. Yep, we're going at 20 minutes. So my attention span isn't longer than 20 minutes. I don't know about other people's. And I'll be doing some other series on other topics. And so if you'd like to go on the journey with me, I'll be posting these on YouTube. I'll share that link. I believe it's already on my Facebook as far as ways to contact me. And look forward to any comments or messages in the future. And also, what I hope to do is to have I already have some of you picked out. If you want to participate, I hope to talk about this topic and other topics that we'll be doing on YouTube. All right. Have a great evening, y'all, and happy Father's Day again.